Hello, I am Sadie Miller and I play Sarah Jane Smith for Big Finish. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Larry, it's Frazer. And you use, they all say, who is Doctor Who? Where is he from?
What does he do? They wonder who is Doctor Who? So I ask you, who's Doctor Who?
Welcome back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, the podcast that explores the amazing world of Doctor Who collecting, all kinds of Doctor Who merchandise, and sometimes Doctor Who. Amazing, isn't it? What a great place to do that. Brought to you in part by Forbidden Planet and Bags Unlimited Incorporated. I am Larry Van Mersbergen, your host, and I've been Doctor Who collecting now since 1981. That's a long time. Welcome to our 83rd episode. So we're happy to be going strong here and celebrating Doctor Who and Doctor Who collecting and Doctor Who merchandise. That's what a wonderful thing we do here. About me, if you're tuning in for the first time, if you have heard this story, you may fast forward. But I opened one of the first Doctor Who stores in Chicago that exclusively served Doctor Who fans. This was back in 1984, and it was called Bundles from Britain, which we just celebrated its 40th anniversary of its founding, and very excited that the memory still lives on. We're mentioned in a wonderful book called Red, White, and Who, the story of Doctor Who in America, and we live on page 384. You can find a link to buy this book on the front page of our website at drwhocollectors.com. Get a copy for your shelf. We are part of the Direction Point Doctor Who Podcast Network. You can find some amazing podcasts at directionpoint.org. And if you happen to host a Doctor Who podcast and you're tuning into this one, join today. There's no cost. So you can join the ranks of folks like Time Streams, amazing people there. Police Box in a Junkyard, awesome crew. The Doctor Who Target Book Club, they're a funny group, but they do the job with the Target books. Traveling the Vortex, Doctor Who Literature, Time Ram, just to name a few. So for more information on any of those shows or this show, directionpoint.org. And of course, while I'm on the subject of links, I do this in every show because you can start anywhere. Two resources you need to have on your Chrome browser bar is timelash.com, and once you're there, go to the TARDIS library. Sign up for a free account and keep track of all of your books, your vinyl, your Betamax, your CD collection, everything but magazines or figurines or things like that. So there you go. If you need to go deep dive in Doctor Who. We've seen some pretty amazing stuff online, like a Dalek bowling game from '65. It sold for over $2,000. Definitely not an outrageous offer because I've never seen one. So there you go. That you will find at Howe's Transcendental Toy Box at drwhotoybox.co.uk. And that's, of course, David J. Howe. And you know that name if you're in the Doctor Who collecting world. Good friend of mine, wonderful guy. Answered a lot of my questions. Also, we keep in touch, so it's a wonderful thing. Great resource there. And of course, if you're looking for great Doctor Who items at great prices, look no further than DoctorWhoStore.com. That's Alien Entertainment. That's the company that eventually came out of bundles after a little bit of a jump start. But anyway, they're running a lot of specials right now, especially on Chicago Tardis merchandise, which we just wrapped up, and I'll get to that in a little bit. You can have free pickup from the store. You can save on the shipping there. Go to the store. Go to the downtown Lombard store. It's amazing. They've got a great selection of Doctor Who and other sci-fi and fantasy items. It's just a really neat place to go. So visit alienentertainment.com for locations and store hours. You can also find some great Doctor Who items at Forbidden Planet, but you don't need to go far. You just go to my website at drwhocollectors.com, click on the merchandise links, and shop from Forbidden Planet. You check out at Forbidden Planet, but then a portion of that sale comes back to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast, and we appreciate that because we've just got our first check, And, well, not really. It was a direct deposit. But anyway, it was great because that paid for 3 months of hosting. So thank you for your support. And don't forget our own eBay store. Right now, our eBay store is currently undergoing some changes. We still have some hardcover books and some other things up there, but right now the Target books are down because that's becoming a very big chore to put up those books. So we're trying to figure out a better way to get those books to you. So there you go. All the proceeds, of course, from those go to benefit the podcast. Another great place to shop, of course, is Who North America. Keith and Jenny, great folks. They opened the store down in Canby, Indiana, and you can find them at whona.com. And of course, finally, also celebrating its 40th anniversary is the Who Shop of London, opened the same year as Bundles. So they're listeners to the podcast. So guys, congratulations on your 40th anniversary. And a big shout out to all the folks there, Alex and the whole gang. So you can find them at thewhoshop.com. Of course, on our website, in addition to all the podcasts, we have all the podcasts from episode 1 to 82 as of this recording. And if you're listening in the past, we have whatever the current number is. We also have the complete guide to Doctor Who classic hardcover books. That is a very unique resource because there have been a lot of debates about Doctor Who hardcovers, and I'm trying to make sure that everybody has the right information. So we list reprints that some folks didn't know about. People who are collecting them thought they had the whole thing and realized there is a second printing to Invasion of the Dinosaurs, or Dinosaur Invasion. There is a second printing to Three Doctors. You know, that's important to know. So there you go. What's going on? Well, I just wrapped up convention season till next year, so I'm going to hold that thought to my next segment, so stay tuned for my time and I'll give you the whole rundown because a lot has happened, but I want to make sure I put that on the right place in the podcast. So anyway, back to the hardcover thing here. Many rumors abound about third printing books that Wingate or Allen, we actually just came up with our final theory that the Loch Ness Monster third printing is really the second printing because no one can produce a second printing. So it might have been a reprint, a misprint, so to speak. But I'm always on the lookout for concrete proof of existence of books we don't list. So if you have a book that is not in our guide and you can share a photo or two or, you know, not just a story, but we want to see the title page. We want to see the spine. I want to see what is it listed? Is it Longbow, Wingate, Allen? You know, where does it say? Because there's no other way we can know unless somebody actually physically has the book. So just contact me. And of course, I would love to talk to you as a collector. I love having collectors on the show. And we've actually reached out to several Doctor Who stars at the last convention. Hopefully we'll have some folks coming back on the show. That would be wonderful. You can contact me for details at drwhocollectorspodcast@gmail.com and put interview in the subject line so I do not ignore it. Target books. Whenever I say Target books, usually Tony Witt appears, but since he didn't appear, I think we're in safe ground. We do buy job lots of Target books. The most we pay for a Target collection is $2.75 per book if the books are in decent shape. And we would also, pay the shipping, of course. So if you want to get rid of them, we can help you with that. And of course, if whatever is missing from the collection, I collect all the Target books, including all reprints, and then we put the rest in the store, and we use that proceed to pay for the podcast. So you'd be doing a good thing there. Thank you so much. Just send me an email with your list, condition, and photos, and I can talk to you. On today's show, very excited to present this. You're going to hear my Chicago Tardis main stage interview with Frazer Hines and Wendy Padbury. I got another shot on the main stage. It was really fun. It was a great interview. We had a great crowd on that Sunday morning. I'll talk more about that in detail on my time coming up. But a special thank you to my good friend Stephen Fodor for doing that recording for me. The video is currently up on our YouTube channel. I want to thank our patrons out there. If you're a patron of this podcast, thank you so much for being a part of our world here. And you can visit us on Patreon and subscribe at the $15 level or any amount you want to give us. You can find us at patreon.com/Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. You can also support us on our main podcast platform, which is Podbean. It's drwhocollectors.podbean.com. And you can support us at any level. Our theme song is Who's Doctor Who, composed by Barry Mason and Les Reed, performed by Frazer Hines. And you will get the full story on that song in my main stage interview. If you want to share this podcast with your friends, and I do encourage that, we are on most podcast providers, including Apple Podcasts, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and a few others. So you can find us pretty much there. And of course, we are also on the Direction Point Network at directionpoint.org. So right after the break, I will go through my time here and tell you what's going on. There's a lot going on. Our main story, that main stage interview with Frazer and Wendy, it was the second Doctor crew, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, the most outrageous offer of the Spanish variety. Stay tuned.
Traveling the Vortex.
Are you ready to embark on an epic journey through time and space? Join the thousands of Whovians around the world who've discovered Traveling the Vortex, the ultimate Doctor Who podcast for die-hard fans and curious newcomers alike.
Every week, we dive deep into the Whoniverse, discussing the episodes, theories, and hidden gems. We dissect the Doctor's adventures, share behind-the-scenes stories, and explore the legacy of this iconic show.
Traveling the Vortex brings fans together, fostering a global community of Whovians. Whether you're a fan of classic or new Who, there's something for everyone.
Join us on this incredible journey as we unravel the mysteries of time and space.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to Traveling the Vortex today on your favorite podcast platform.
Traveling the Vortex. Your ticket to adventure awaits.
Traveling the Vortex is a proud member of the Direction Point Podcast Network. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Hi, I'm Juliet.
And I'm Nathan.
Experience Doctor Who from the very beginning through a classic fan's eyes.
And through the eyes of a new Who fan.
Reminisce and relive those classic moments with Nathan as he offers fun insight.
Or experience them for the first time with Juliet as she dwells on social issues, history, fashion, and the size of a flashlight.
We're the Time Streams podcast.
Find us on Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
It's my time. And now it's my time. Welcome to my time. Let me tell you what's been going on. It's been quite an exciting time in my life in Doctor Who. A lot of great things have happened. I'm going to start with just a quick recap of Chicago Tardis this year. Chicago Tardis, over Thanksgiving weekend at the Westin in Lombard, Illinois. One of the best Doctor Who conventions you can go to. I mean, I can never get to Galley 1. I know it's a good show, a lot of big stars out there, but we had people come to Chicago Tardis just to get an autograph and a photograph with someone that was half the price of going to Galley. So that told me bundles about what I needed to know there. So anyway, the guest list was phenomenal. We had Jo Martin, first time she was in Chicago. We had Sacha Dhawan, first time he was in Chicago. It was just a very fun time. And Sacha was the nicest guy. I only got to shake his hand and talk to him for a few minutes, but and then Jo Martin, too, same thing. I got to talk to her about the Marlowe Murder Club, which I just finished watching, and it was just wonderful. And, of course, some of the folks that were there, Sophie Aldred, my good friend Sophie, was there. She, of course, remembered our time together at Doctoberfest. And funny story with her is, of course, I always support our guests, and so I had an autograph photo to be signed by her, and I came up to the table, and her handler said, "Hey, did you know he's got a really large collection of Doctor Who?" And Sophie turned to look at him and said, "I've seen it." Great story. And another good story, of course, Paul McGann was there, the Sixth Doctor, and I walked up to him for an autograph, and I said, "You know, Paul, maybe you don't remember, but the last time we were speaking, we talked about 1920s jazz." And he looked at me and he goes, "That was 5 years ago. Yeah, that was you. Yes, I remember." I love it. I love that stuff. And it was just a lot of fun. Frazer Hines, of course, was there. Wendy Padbury. I got to interview them on the main stage, but I got to talk to Frazer quite a bit. He's just a fun guy. Of course, the Big Finish crew, the folks that I really had a great time with. Jason Hagellery, of course, the head honcho. Sadie Miller and Daphne Ashbrook were there. Daisy Ashford. I said Daphne Ashbrook. No, she wasn't there. Daisy Ashford was there. And I talked to Daisy again about being on the show. And Sadie actually tried to, encourage her too, because she really liked being on the show. And Daisy was like, I don't know what to talk about. And Sadie was like, don't worry, he can get you talking. And it's okay if you don't want to talk. If there's something they don't want to talk about, we don't push buttons here. So this is a fun one, a fun show. And okay, on another track here, leading to another story with a celebrity here, is that a few months back, this was just kind of a out of the blue kind of thing. I received an email, and the email's from David J. Howe, and he says, "Hey, they're working on a Blu-ray here, and you have the Spirit of Light merchandise." I said, "Well, yeah, I've got almost all of it. I'm missing a couple T-shirts, but." So he said, can you, I'm going to give your contact over to this person and he's going to email you like tonight. And I said, okay. So I get this email. I don't know who this person is, but I said, okay, great. Can you please send or share with me high-res photos of all your Spirit of Light stuff by tomorrow? And I said, well, sure. So I got to work and I did all that and sent it off. And that was the last I heard about it till I received 2 copies of season 25 Blu-ray with Sylvester McCoy on the cover. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But no, on the bonus disc, my photos appear and my name appears in the credits. So that was pretty exciting. That was a humbling experience. I've contributed to a Blu-ray. So to continue that, I decided to take both my copies to Chicago Tardis, and Sophie, of course, signed that, and I took them to Sylvester McCoy, and he got really excited. He picked it up, said, Sophie, have you seen this yet? And she said, no, I haven't seen him yet. They hadn't been home, and Sylvester had just come from Australia. So it was... he said, is the escape room on here? And she said, yeah, I think so. And I said, yeah, I think it is. And I said to Sylvester, well, I got to contribute to the bonus disc. And he goes, did you really? That's wonderful. He's 81, I think. So he's just hilarious. But he signed it. And of course, I'm hoping one day Bonnie Langford comes to Chicago so I can have her sign that as well. Another person I met was Kieran Hyland. He does the colorization, and he signed my copy of the Daleks in color. Great guy. And it was just a lot of fun. Mark Ayers, the composer, signed my copy of Ghostlight, the soundtrack from 1989. He asked me how I got it. I told him. He says, okay, it's legit. So, and Dominic Glynn was there as well. So there was a lot of people. And if I'm leaving folks out, that's okay. It's that's okay. That was the stuff I did. Now, as far as what I did at Chicago Tardis, of course, I'm a speaker. I was on a few panels. One was about home media, which I had to leave because I was seeing Joe Martin and then came back, so I didn't really get to talk much there. I was on, of course, the Over 30 cosplay panel with my good friend Jen Greeley. She's just an amazing costume goddess. That's all I can say. So she's just simply amazing. And I asked her to be on the show. So hopefully I can get her on the show. Then we had a panel dedicated to Bundles from Britain, 40th anniversary, and my guest on that was Mr. Bob Wettendorf. And Mr. Bob Wettendorf, of course, I've known him for 40 years. He was my first customer. Became a good friend when we were both members of the Many Companions of Doctor Who, and he gave a lot of stories from the background. Gene Smith was not able to be at the panel. He just said that he was just not able to get around, but he did have to do the 25th anniversary of Chicago TARDIS. So that was more important. But he and I spoke quite a bit at this show, about the Bundles days, and it was just quite amazing. And then, of course, I did a lot on Sunday. I did the Living History of Doctor Who, the final show of the books from 64 to 96. That was very well attended. We gave a copy away of The Evil of the Daleks by Frazer Hines, signed by Frazer. And it was a lot of fun. And I've been getting suggestions for what to do for next year. So I put that out on the Facebook page, Chicago Tardis Fans. So if you went to Chicago Tardis, join that page. And then I was on the main stage with Frazer Hines and Wendy Padbury. You're about to hear that interview in just a few minutes here on this show. You can see the interview on YouTube. It wasn't quite as dramatic or anything big happening like what happened with the Katie Manning interview. Like, nobody sat on my lap for this one like Katie did, but Katie is Katie, and we love Katie. So that's a wonderful thing. Also, what's going on here is I've been doing a little bit of work with Real-Time Pictures. Keith Barnfather, I met him down at Oktoberfest a month or so ago. And I've been part of the documentary about the USA tour, which happened in the late 80s in the United States. They brought a trailer over, they brought guests. And when they stopped in Chicago, they only brought the trailer. No guests, no dealers' tables, no screenings, and because they chose Navy Pier as their venue. So I was spending my Sunday with some wonderful people, Russell McGee, Brandon Peters, and Elwithis Pagan, just wonderful folks from, Russell, of course, is also part of Big Finish. He's done some work there. The Brandon Peters Show is a podcast I highly recommend. I've actually told him he should join our network. I don't care if he's not a Doctor Who show. Everybody should have him. But, he hasn't done that yet. But that's okay. Brandon's a good guy. In fact, Brandon and Russell both were in the Who room here. And based on my recording time, that would have been yesterday. But they were just, in fact, we got so involved here in the room that we put off our other project here, which is I'm going to be part of a PBS documentary on fandom. And they've got a lot of Doctor Who stars on that. They want to include me on that as well. I've done some other interviews for that. So that's what's going on. It's been very, very nice. Things have been going very well, and I can't complain. So life is good on that level. So I have officially wrapped up the convention season. I am not a guest this year at Consinity. They rotate their guests regularly, which is normal. I still haven't worked out my stuff with Console Room up in Minneapolis. They keep reaching out. We keep trying to agree, and then they never respond. So it's okay. It's Minneapolis in January, so I'm good there. Anyhow, that's my time. So I hope that was informative, and thanks. It's been a really fun time. So coming up after a quick break, you're going to get our the full main stage interview audio with Frazer Hines and Wendy Padbury. Stay tuned.
The vervoids are probably the best dirty joke in Doctor Who.
They're hermaphroditic plants.
A lot of plants are.
So there you go. It's based on science.
No, they'll ship anything.
There are probably 11 and handle shippers out there. You just have to drill a hole where his mouth is, and you're all set.
He needs the room. I've seen it in pictures.
I'm not saying you're not a fan. I'm saying you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Doctor Who gives a drunken Doctor Who podcast for the end times.
You are invited on an adventure across all of time and space, in a completely random order. It's the Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. Jump in the TARDIS with your hosts,
Eric Gulbranson,
Asad Kheshki,
and
Matthew Kressel.
Explore Doctor Who TV stories, audio adventures, and books, both novels and non-fiction. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast. It's the entire Whoniverse on shuffle. The Police Box in the Junkyard podcast is a member of the Direction Point Network and is available about once a month wherever you find your podcasts. You are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors podcast. Keep collecting.
Up there is the scanner, those are the doors, that is a chair with a panda on it. Sheer poetry, dear boy.
Good morning, Chicago Tardis. How we doing? Sunday. Hello. I'm Larry Van Mersbergen, host of the Doctor Who Collectors podcast and a frequent frequent speaker at Chicago Tardis and doing my second main stage interview of my career. When I was 15 years old, I got to meet Patrick Troughton at the Chicago convention, and I never thought that my 15-year-old self would actually be talking to his companions 40 years later. So we're going to have a great conversation, some in-depth stuff, some fun stuff. So I know you all love them, the second Doctor crew. Please welcome to the stage Frazer Hines and Wendy Padbury.
Good morning.
It's always a big crowd for a Sunday. I appreciate some of my listeners, some fans of the Second Doctor. It's always good to have you. Well, thank you both for being here today. Oh, it's wonderful. It's a pleasure to talk with you. I'm going to go right off the bat here with a question for both of you because of the breaking news out there. Since with the War Games not only being colorized and reduced to 90 minutes with the regeneration, what are your feelings about that? Since you guys put in a lot of work on that story.
Well, no, I think it's great. I always thought it was too long anyway. I thought it was 10 episodes, wasn't it?
Yes, 10 episodes.
I always thought maybe it could have been 8 episodes. There was a reason why it was 10 episodes, because stories fell through and the usual thing. But I'm quite excited about seeing it, actually.
The very fact that Russell T Davies is resurrected, a classic, rather than just sort of, oh, that's the old days, that's the old days. I'm very excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see it too. Of course, in color with the regeneration that John Pertwee kind of what we didn't get in the 70s. So
I've seen some of the clips on YouTube.
There is a trailer on YouTube.
What, War Games?
Yeah. Yes. It looks great.
Does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, you can. If you saw the original and you saw this, you thought they redid it because it doesn't look colorized.
No, it looks
really nice.
I've seen Laura and Hardy colorized, and
it looks colorized.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go back and forth here with some specific things. So, Frazer, this one's for you. Jamie had a fantastic chemistry with Patrick Troughton's Doctor. So, what do you think made that special?
I don't know, because we met before, 2 years before I did the Highlander, I think called Smuggler's Bay, where I was the star of the show, and Patrick was playing this old smuggler, Ratsy. And then 2 years later, he's the star of the show, and I'm coming in just to do 4 episodes. I'm so pleased that I said yes to those 4 episodes. And I said, oh, Doctor Who is a children's TV series. I can't be bothered to deny. I've never seen Australia, New Zealand, all of America, Milton Keynes. I've never seen half these big places. So I'm so glad. But I don't know what the chemistry was. We didn't try to gel or try to blend together. It just happened. And the lovely thing is Patrick had this lovely thing that if you suggested some comedy or something, he didn't say, no, you just, I'm the Doctor. You just learn your lines. You don't know. You go, Frazer, got an idea. We'll do it here. We'll do it. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Oh, microphone off. Wendy, Zoe often stood out as one of the most Doctor Who's capable companions. Did you feel a sense of responsibility in portraying that character?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, she was certainly more clever than the Doctor. She wasn't backwards in telling the Doctor how irritated she was by
She had no problem standing up to the Doctor.
She had no problems. So yeah, it was a fantastic part to play. And very different to Debbie, who'd been wonderful, but such a completely different character.
Oh, yes.
So
Debbie was so lovely and beautiful and attractive.
Frazer? No, she was really lovely to play. I was very happy, yeah. But talking about that, what made you and Pat to like gel? You don't know what that is, do you? It's when you meet anyone, what is it that draws you to someone? Yes. To that person and not that person. You don't know. It's an indefinable quality that that happens. Something happens and you just gel. It's lovely.
And I noticed
that it did as well.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, definitely.
In the stories I've seen, which sadly are very many, I've always seen the Doctor and Jamie had this really close friendship, even to the point when, at the end of Wheel in Space, very reluctant to accept Zoe as part of the TARDIS crew, that Jamie kind of had an ownership of the Doctor.
Oh yeah. We had a great bromance. I mean, certainly grabbing each other.
They held hands at the beginning of the Cybermen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that loving grabbing the hand.
Still great.
Still great. That's wonderful.
Okay, Frazer, for you here, just as after the initial getting started, what was it like working with Pat and Wendy in the dynamic from the Wheel in Space to the War Games?
It was obviously different because he had this wonderful. He loved Victoria Waterfield because she was more of his era, almost the crinolines and the ideology of that sort of person. I mean, Zoe he thought was a little bossy little, but he would have killed for Zoe, fought for her to the death. But again, we just sort of gelled again.
Yeah.
It wasn't like who's this person coming in? This interloper. I told you, you just fitted straight away.
And Wendy, same question, working with Pat and
Yeah, well, it was daunting, of course, because daunting to become the new girl and take over the depths. So it was daunting, but both Frazer and Patrick made me so welcome, and it was very quick to settle and become part of the Troughton Trio, as we're named. It was just a joy. Yeah.
And then we were very fortunate because Paul Fox, who was the head honcho at BBC at the time, when he joined, we broke for our summer holiday for 6 weeks. But he didn't want to put a new serial in or a new story or anything. So somebody came up with the idea of actually putting that thing on and going to show Zoe what it's like. And they showed the Evil to Dallas.
Yes.
And we all went on holiday. And I saw Paul Fox years later. So we all went on holiday and said, cheers, Paul, another pina colada on Paul Fox. Because we got paid while we were on holiday.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great.
And one of the few instances where a repeat was part of the canon, part of the storyline, where we had to go Wheel in Space, Evil of the Daleks, then the following story.
Yeah.
This brilliant stuff. And of course, I told the audience before we came out, I'm old enough that I met Patrick Troughton back in '84. I met Michael Craze and almost all of the companions.
Yeah.
And Annika, she was here a few years ago. And it was just an amazing experience as a young person. I'll show the story real briefly. It was at the Hyatt in Chicago here. Looking out the window, I was waiting for some friends. And a person walked up next to me and said, "What a beautiful city." And I turned and it was Patrick Troughton. So I said, hello. I was 15 years old at the time. So I was just starstruck, absolutely. And he was just so kind and just admiring the scene around him. I believe it was one of his first Chicago trips. And just an amazing person to meet. So I can imagine, of course, his body of work and his children both speak highly of him as well.
Yeah.
What an amazing.
And also, if he hadn't been so wonderful as a doctor, we possibly wouldn't be sitting here talking about Doctor Who now.
It would have been by a better way. Yes, absolutely. Okay, Frazer, Jamie remains one of the most beloved companions in all the history of Doctor Who. Why do you think the character has endured in the hearts of fans even till today?
I wish I knew because I had bottled it.
He's got great legs.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it was killed or his sort of naivety, so to speak, but he could make fun of things as a joke, but it's not a joke, it's just Jamie trying to understand stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it was this sort of naivety that he had, but also the stoicness that Diana gathered when she saw the War Games, like Jamie calling Jamie Frazer.
The first episode I ever saw of Patrick Troughton was episode 10 of the War Games. And what sticks in my mind is that opening sequence where the Doctor's trying to get the key in, and here comes Jamie running through this force field to help him. And it's just so in slow motion. And that was my first view of Jamie. And I thought, wow, he's going to save the day. Here we go. Zoe and
doctor trying to get that key up there, and you get it through, and they start.
Because we filmed that at a rubbish dump, Brighton rubbish dump. And we had rats running around.
It was grim, wasn't it? It was snowing. It was April. It was snowing, really cold, and many rats.
Of course, Wendy, the same question. Zoe, of course, is a beloved companion. Why do you think people today are still flocking to the stories?
I think maybe because she was different. She was, a strong woman, girl at the time, and I think it was a period of time where it was unusual to have strong women characters on telly,
especially in the 60s.
In the 60s. So I think she, I've met 4 since I've been doing Doctor Who conventions, both in America and in the UK, astrophysicists, female astrophysicists, all who became astrophysicists because of watching Zoe. And it's a very humbling experience, because when you're doing the work, you don't realise an impact you're having.
Your influence, when you're an actor and you're playing a role. And I know many actors have said the same thing. The reason that I went into this is because you were this character.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an amazing thing, especially for young women in the 60s.
Yeah.
To come out of that era and go into astrophysics. That's amazing.
Yes.
And of course, Wendy, just back to you for a moment. You were known for, at least you can confirm or deny it, that you were behind a lot of the behind-the-scenes mishaps or practical jokes.
Absolutely not. I mean, seriously, that was him.
Even Colin Baker would say that. Yeah.
Well, any practical jokes that you can share to our Sunday audience here?
No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. When you think about it, it was a swinging 60s, so
of course,
everything went, but you couldn't do it nowadays.
Right, absolutely. Well, they happened, and they were funny, and now we're going to...
We debag Patrick sometimes. He'd come up.
Oh yeah, we did that a lot.
Yeah.
We used to go to the TARDIS and then...
We'd take his trousers down.
Pull his trousers down. Also, I was wearing a kilt, a little kilt at rehearsal. It was very fashionable at the time. And I think I'd been out the night before. We rehearsed a scene, sat down on these chairs at the side so other actors could have their go. And I kind of sat like this and nodded off. And Pat was on one side, Frazer was on the other. And I got this little kilt with little straps here. And all of a sudden I was being nudged in the ribs by Frazer going, Padders, come on, we're on. And I shot up like this to go and work, and my skirt stayed back there. I was in the middle of the rehearsal room in my knickers because you'd taken my skirt off.
And it was a church hall, wasn't it?
And it was a church hall. And I remember running out the double doors, and I went absolutely scarlet and just going, and I ran out into the hallway to go to the ladies. And I bumped into the vicar. And for some unknown reason, I said, morning, vicar, and then I curtsied. I don't know why. But that was one of the worst ones we ever played on.
That's a great story. Okay, Frazer.
And it's the bright night when we did the 2 Doctors. We were queuing at the canteen, and I had this sort of news lead. What's that smell of it? And she came out and she didn't hit me. Our girls were lovely. They could have said, Christ, grow up, No, we had some lovely girls. Enjoying life and fooling around.
That's a good story. A quick story for you too, because when I was much younger, I had a friend of mine who actually went on vacation to Seville.
Oh yeah.
And he came back and he was really excited to talk to me. He says, hey, I got to talk to you because we were visiting Seville and we ran into these folks at this little hotel and asked, hey, I see all the film crew. Are you guys from Hollywood? And someone said, no, we're better, we're British. From his description, it was you, Frazer.
Oh,
yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
Because we had two policemen looking after us who got called in the traffic, and they were very off. You know, they wouldn't join in and they wouldn't speak. Good morning, you know. And they were with us for about 3 weeks. And towards the end of the week, they started the second week join us. Look, come join us for lunch. We have a glass of wine. Join us for. On the very last day of filming, I've got some photographs of Nicola handcuffed to one of the policemen, and I'm hitting him with a truncheon. And they said, when you first come here, we think, oh, English, no, football hooligans, we do not like the British. But now we realize that not all British are football hooligans. And we actually cemented Anglo-Spanish.
Oh, he was Welsh, was he?
That's right.
Okay. All right, Frazer, this one's specifically for you. So, as many of my, if you listen to my podcast, the Doctor Who Collectors podcast, we use as our theme song a little song that Frazer recorded back in 1968 called "Who's Doctor Who?"
Oh yeah.
Tell us about the recording. I know that these folks.
Well, I was playing charity football, and one of the team was Barry Mason, and he and Les Reed had written Delilah for Tom Jones and The Last Waltz for Engelbert Humperdinck. And he said, Frazer, look, you're popular in this Doctor Who thing. Me and Les are going to write a song. So they wrote the song called Who's Doctor Who? It was the only flop they ever had, actually. But on guitar was Jimmy Page.
Led Zeppelin. Yeah.
Wow. As a young lad, Jimmy. And I've yet to meet him and say, I started your career off. And they all say, oh, Doctor Who, where is he from? It's a nice song. And the other side, the B side, Punch and Judy Man, all the disc jockeys wanted to play that. It's a much better record. But in those days, you weren't allowed to play the B side. You had to play the A side, and that was it. But and I saw Les Reed, a few years just before he died, and at a function. And I said, I told him the story. He said, yes. That's the only flop we had. You owe me £1 million.
Well, thankfully we've revived it. Every episode begins with the Frazer Ditty. So if you're not a listener, subscribe. You can hear that song in every episode. Wendy, of course, after leaving Doctor Who, you worked as a talent agent, discovered folks like Matt Smith. You heard of him? Yeah. So what drew you to that side of the entertainment industry?
Oh, it was a long time afterwards. Many years. I did lots of work, and then I stopped to have children, and etc., etc. What drew me to Matt, did you ask?
What drew you to that?
Or to being an agent?
Yeah.
Well, because I didn't know what else to do. I knew that I didn't want to act anymore, and somebody said you'd make a good agent, and I said, well, I don't think I would. That's like a proper job. To get up and go to an office, that's not very me. Anyway, I did, and I did it for 15 years, and yeah, Matt was one of the boys I saw at the National Youth Theatre, because part of an agent's job was to go and see all the end-of-term showcases that the drama schools did, and see who was coming up through the ranks. And I went to the National Youth Theatre, and Matt was in a play. He didn't have very much to do, but I just couldn't take my eyes off him. He was really fantastic. And so I went up to him afterwards and said, I'm an agent, and I don't know whether you want to be an actor or not. And he said, yeah, I do. And I said, oh, well, I'd be, very interested in meeting you. If you want to come for an interview, if you want to come to the office and meet us all, then that would be lovely. And he did. And he came on. I think he came on the Thursday. We said, right, we'll get your photos done, we'll do a CV for you. And then on the Friday, I got a phone call from the Royal Court Theatre, from the casting director, who said, we're having really terrible trouble casting this particular part. We want somebody who looks quite quirky, who can look about 15, and can do an American accent, a New York American accent. And I said, oh, Matt Smith. And she said, I don't know who that is. And I said, well, he won't. I only took him on yesterday. I said, I can't send you any photos because I haven't got any yet. She said, I trust you. Tell him to come and get a script from the Royal Court stage door, and then come back on Monday morning and have an audition. So I phoned Matt on the Friday and said, right, first question is, can you do a New York accent? And he said, yes, I can. And I said, yes, okay, in which case, go to the Royal Court, pick up a script, have it, read it over the weekend, and go on Monday for your interview for this play. And he said, bloody hell, that was quick. And the rest is history. I don't think I've ever had so much interest in a client as Matt. I had another Matthew McFadden was my client as well. I took from RADA, he made a Matthew McFadden Succession, and I found him at RADA as well. But really with Matt Smith, he's just got that face, hasn't he? He's just all those features that don't really go together individually, but then they do. And he's just amazing. He's fabulous. He's fabulous.
Oh gosh, yeah, I think she did a good job with that, didn't she? Frazer, just a quick thing. If you're in for a wonderful holiday movie that'll really set you in the mood, Frazer and Sylvester were in a movie called Lost at Christmas. And could you tell our audience about that film?
Yeah, it was set entirely on location up in Scotland. About this young couple who meet and they get snowbound in this hotel up in the Highlands. And Sylvester and I, we played two sort of old Scottish Highlanders. And we had this idea, we said, we just said, fancy a drink, Jimmy? I'll have a drink. If you did a Highland accent, would we have to have a gram of whiskey? I'll join you, there'll be a glass of whiskey. So we get a lot more screen time. So we did the first scene to the director, and he looked, he said, you two buggers. I know what you're doing, but keep it in. And he kept it in, and so lovely. The BBC too have now taken under their wing, a bit like Die Hard, and they show it every Christmas now. It's going to be shown again this Christmas coming up.
And if you want to watch it here in the United States, if you have a Roku, Roku has its own channel called Roku Channel, and Lost at Christmas is on the Roku Channel with no cost. So I believe you can also get it on Amazon Prime. So so definitely check out that film. I've seen it twice. It's a wonderful film.
There's another one that Brian Hendrick, who directed that one, is called Sundown, with me and Katie Blackwood. And again, we shot that on the island of Iona. And it took me about 2 days to get there with ferries, and it was raining. And the 4 days we were actually filming, the sun shone, and it worked because it had been raining. And suddenly I was just walking down these lovely sort of lanes in the Highlands of Scotland. It could be raining, it wouldn't be the same. But that's called Sundown.
And it's a beautiful, and by the way, Lost at Christmas, beautiful scenery of the winter of northern Scotland.
The last scene of Sundown, we were actually watching the sun going down, and the camera was on my back, and the sun's going down, and I'm just looking out to sea, and it's for action, and I'm watching the sun go down, it's going down. And somebody a few days later said, God, Frazer, that was amazing. And we only saw your back, but we could see the emotion of your character, William. You know, what were you thinking? I said, I was thinking, for Christ's sake, hurry up, I'm frozen.
Just in case you thought acting was easy, everybody. Okay, here's a little thought question for both of you. If you could play a different role in the modern Doctor Who series, what kind of character would you like to play? I'll start with Wendy.
A character that's been a character that's.
It could be a new character or an old character, but not your present character.
Oh, I'd like to be Missy. I love Missy. She's amazing. That's an amazing character. Or Jamie.
That's what we're good in a kilt.
Yes.
Good in a kilt.
There you go. Frazer?
I think I'd like to have a stab at playing the master. Playing the Daddy. Yes.
That might be a good one for you.
Kind of like an evil sort of, because I played Daddy before, you know. not always so nice people.
So you need to get with Sasha Dewan.
Yes,
so get some of that master.
Oh, he's amazing.
Oh, is he great?
Yeah, just honestly, I saw him talking with some children and just giving them his time, and wow, what
I did a TV series, funny enough, called Out of Sight. It was about a school.
Yeah.
And he was one of the pupils. I think he was only about 14 at the time. Wow. And I played one of the nasty Mr. Street, a PE teacher, which was great character to play. And little Sasha was there, and I've seen him. Wow.
It's amazing. A small world it is, the game world. Just a lot of fun. For both of you, okay, what does it mean to you personally to be remembered fondly as Doctor Who fans, considering your run ended in 1969, and this country didn't see any of it until just recently?
You haven't seen it until recently, really?
Well, the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Since the 80s. It never got broadcast here until the mid-80s. And of course, by that point, and the first showings were the first showings of Patrick Travel Stories were at the Chicago Convention in 1984, and the first one was the Crotons. And the Crotons. Direction point.
Yeah. Where we go, get the God to give the students.
Mother God. Yeah.
Gone with the wind. Yes.
Well, it's incredible, isn't it?
Oh, I know.
It's absolutely incredible. You don't think when you're 21 and you're doing a job and you're a young actor that all these years later you would be sitting here talking about that role and that show. I mean, it's incredible. And it's all thanks to the fans, because if you weren't such fans, then we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it.
I just look at the size of this crowd on a Sunday morning.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's for me too, because since I first saw Patrick Travel Stories in the early 80s, and of course I don't think either one of you were at those Chicago conventions.
Yeah, I was at the 84 because Patrick and Colin Baker, we just done the two doctors, and they both, God bless them, they just said, you've got to have Frazer, and then they rang Norman Rubinstein, so you've got to have Frazer, you've got to have Frazer.
That's right.
It'll be fun, it'll be fun. But that's what happened.
Yes, and I just remember they showed, that was the origin of the 24-hour video room, by the way, because I watched the War Games at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, some of you remember that as well. It was just amazing. But and that kind of grew, the American audience just kind of gravitated towards, Jamie, Zoe, Victoria, and the stories that we could see at that time. More have come out since then.
If I'd known, when he said, we'd somebody here, I'd have kept my kilt and my shirt and my mask. That's what when I finished. Well, that's 3 years, 3.5 years, I'm going on now to the next job.
Absolutely. And I had the same conversation with Peter Purvis not long ago about how he's done all this other stuff, but people keep coming back to his Doctor Who role.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And he's now really proud to be part of that era, as all of the actors are.
Well, some actors, they hate to be reminded of their early stuff, but I'm very proud of Jamie. People say, oh no, I don't want to be reminded, those are the old days. No, I'm very proud of being part of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Do either of you have a favorite story that you either worked on or watched?
Well, I always say it's Mind Robber. I love Mind Robber.
Yes.
Only because it was so different and so innovative, so unlike anything else we were doing. And what I often say is it also, Frazer wasn't there for a week. I mean, what a great story, actually, for Frazer to get chicken pox during, because any other might have been a bit more complicated, but because of the nature of the story, that putting his face together and getting it on a board like a jigsaw was a sort of an immediate stroke of genius. Yes. I can remember Terence Dick sitting down on the set, sort of writing stuff and trying to put it in, and then Hamish appeared,
One of my favourite bits in the Mind Robbers when Patrick and I were ushered into this room with Emrys James. He was sitting behind this desk with all these electrode things. And he was drawn and he said, Frazer, can you just get near the table? Stay by the door. bit nearer the table, Frazer. That's it. Patrick, you're fine back there. Bit nearer. Can you get any nearer to the table? I said, no, my junk is now resting on the table. And Patrick's voice said, yes, so's mine.
Oh, boy. Do you see what I had to put up with? Do you feel my pain?
Okay, so Frazer, do you have a favorite story other than my robber that possibly won before Wendy?
I'd love to see the Highlanders. I really would.
We should animate the Highlanders, right?
Years back, I said to one of the animators, and they said, no, we can't do the Highlanders. It's the kilt. It's so different, all the pleats. I said, no, but in the Highlanders, we didn't have pleats. It was just a wrap-around kilt, so it just wasn't on. We didn't know that. So, yeah, so hopefully we might do the Highlanders one day.
That's a great story. It's a great story. I've read it. If you haven't read The Highlanders, get a copy of the Tony book. It's really quite good. In a few moments, if you have any questions for Wendy and Frazer, we have a microphone over here. If you want to form a queue over here to this side, we will get to your questions in just a few minutes. So feel free to come on up and all that. My favorite story is a story called Enemy of the World.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that one.
Well, for years I've been saying Enemy of the World, and people have gone, yeah, Patrick plays 2 parts. Yeah, that's been done before. Yeah. And then when he came out, my God, that was so good. Patrick was really good at it. I mean, with the first day of rehearsals, he came up to Debbie and I, and he said, oh, think for this accent from Salamander, what do you think of this the voice? And Wendy, and Debbie went, are you going to play it like that? I said, he's not from Pakistan, you know. And Patrick slunk away. You could hurt him, actually. He slunk away. No, he was brilliant in that part, really.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got an audience question. We've got somebody lined up. Go right ahead.
Hello again. Hi, I just wanted to ask Ms. Padbury a question. I meant to ask this in the meet and greet, but we ran out of time. Yeah. Is it true that you were asked to stay on into John Pertwee's reign as the Doctor? And if you didn't, I'm just curious why you decided.
Yeah, no, it is true, but I didn't think, I mean, like Frazer spoke to you, we all spoke to our agents, you know, and it was, I just didn't think, I didn't know who was coming in as the Doctor, and we'd had such an amazing time that I didn't think you could replicate that, really. So it made absolute sense for me to go at the same time as Frazer and Pat, yeah.
Because we didn't want to leave. Because Patrick's wife was saying, you should be doing grown-up television. And my agent was, oh, God, you've got 3 years leave. You should go back to films now. And Wendy's agent as well. And I always say, if we hadn't had those people nagging us, you'd never have heard of David Tennant, who's still be there now. You'd have to shoot us to get us out of the house.
That would be great. Well, thank you very much, and it's wonderful to have both of you back at Chicago.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
So I know in your era some of the props didn't look as great as they do now. Did they look better in person than they did on TV?
That's a great question.
No. They were pretty basic, I think is a polite way of saying. You know, in the TARDIS, you couldn't really touch many buttons because they'd just come off in your hand.
Yes. But the best thing was the set when we have for the underground.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Because we wanted to film actually in Covent Garden. In those days, the British Underground closed between 2 and 5 in the morning, so they could sweep off the dust and clean the place. And they wouldn't let us film. So they built the set. And the first episode went out, and London Transport rang the BBC and said, you've broken into Covent Garden. It was that good. And that's soon. Yeah. And they said, no, come look at the set. And I went, oh, God. And it was just fantastic set.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Come on up. Thank you so much.
Testing.
Yes, it works. Yeah, we hear you.
Given the quality of work and the way it has stood the test of time, y'all's particular run. And given the state of technology with the development of AI, I don't see how somebody, somewhere, even if it's just some fan in a basement, doesn't end up creating new stories, new episodes, new films out of this original body of work that you guys have created. How is that being accounted for? How is that being addressed in your industry? It seems an inevitability.
I think I do agree.
What? You mean that
He's
just
talking
making...
about, I think he's talking about artificial intelligence. And
Yeah, let's not do that. AI is an amazing thing, but don't replicate us.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, how would you, when you repaint a Van Gogh, for example, given the fact that, there are the Frankensteins of the world out there, if it can be done, it will be done. Are you guys and your families or your compatriots, your industry comrades, are you protected financially as far as your intellectual property goes, or how is it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. And actually, we had no technology back then, but here we are, all these years later. All we had to rely on then was a really good story and really good actors, and it works. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here, would we?
And we were fortunate. We had real sets to work in. Nowadays, most of it is green screen.
Right.
So they just say, but pretend that green wall there, there's a space station, there's a door there, and we were lucky because we had sets.
I remember doing a panel with Pearl, and she was saying, somebody asked her a question about monsters and things and how she felt working with them, and she just sort of said, well, it was all green screen, but when we did have a monster, it was just like an old lamp stand with a shade on the top, and I said, oh, that was our monster.
oh, goodness. Thank you so much for your question. Come on up.
Hi. So my question is, what was it like coming back and filming the Tales of the Tardis?
Oh yeah, it was excellent, wasn't it?
It was great fun,
Yeah, it was such a lovely nod to the 60s, and that's down to Russell, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Because he's such a big fan. And I remember when I was asked, and I said, oh, I'm going to have to think about it. And I got a call from Russell saying, what? What do you mean you've got to think about it? And I said, Russell, I haven't acted for 40 years. He said, it's 6 minutes. And I said, yeah, but I've got to learn lines. And he said, it's like riding a bike. Pull yourself together. And actually, it wasn't like riding a bike. It was that muscle was needed a reboot. But it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful.
And he took us out to supper the night before, and Wendy actually said, I haven't. And I said, well, you've done a big finish. She said, yes, but that's reading, It's not having to learn stuff. But she did like it.
But everything. I mean, I was impressed with the machine that is Bad Wolf, because I remember that evening Russell saying a car will pick you up from the hotel, and I said, it's all right. I've got my car at the hotel, so I'll drive myself in. And he said, a car will pick you up at the hotel. And I said, Russell, honestly, I've got my car, and then when we finished, I could drive straight home. And he said, a car will pick you up from the hotel. And I said, you have to remember, I used to go to work to do Doctor Who on the bus.
Yes.
So I said, this is all different. And the machine that is Bad Wolf is so enormous. I mean, I spent most of the day with my mother basically going, I can't believe this. It was like, and Russell said, do you want to go and see David's Tardis? Yeah, I didn't think you went to see it, did you? And I said, oh yeah. So after filming, they took me down these corridors into this ginormous hangar, and I walked on David's TARDIS, enormous, and I said, oh my, do you remember the size of our TARDIS? And ours was tiny, this was enormous. And I think it was Scott Hancock who said to me, yeah, when David first got on that, and there was a particular scene, he decided, because there were so many gantries to run around and places to run, he decided that he was going to do this particular scene whilst running around all these things, and apparently after the second take he was rather regretful that he'd made the decision to keep running around because he was utterly exhausted. But no, it was an amazing thing to do, wasn't it?
We were doing a convention in Swansea the weekend before.
Yes.
So we were able to say we were in Wales. Oh, you're in? No, Swansea. But we were dying to tell people, but we couldn't tell.
Not a soul. We were really, and actually at that convention there was Colin, Syl, Peter Purvis, Sophie, you and me.
Yeah.
And we all knew that coming week we would be, and we were all desperately wanting to say to each other, is this exciting?
Yes.
Is this exciting? And nobody did. We didn't dare. And actually, Frazer asked to leave the convention early on the Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
And he said, right, it was like we were in some spy thing. Right, I'm going to leave now, because Carrie said I could go. I said, okay, I'll leave it half an hour, and then I'll ask Carrie if I could go, and I'll follow you to the hotel. It was so cloak and dagger, wasn't it? It was extraordinary.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, come on up.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear.
21.
21. Congratulations.
This would be great, but I came late, and my only excuse is that it's my birthday. That's all I have. But first, I want to thank you, Wendy, for straight up saying I don't want to be depicted with AI. I'm an artist. I'm in art school, and it's an existential threat to like everything I've worked for. And I love hearing people be like putting their foot down, being like, "Don't use my voice or my face or anything." That's so important. I wanted to ask Frazer, what was it like when you joined? It was last minute, and you joined already with Annika, Michael, and Pat all there, and it formed the first 4-person TARDIS team since the beginning. I dub it Team PB&J, Polly, Ben, Jamie. Was it daunting to join in, or was you knowing Pat from Smuggler's Bay and Alaska?
It was daunting in so much that Annika and Mike kind of didn't welcome me as such. And understandably, if I'd done, say, a year and a half, and then they brought in another male companion, like Adrian or whoever, I'd have thought, why do we don't need another male companion? So I can understand Michael saying, we don't need this other male companion. And Annika used to hug everybody in the morning, except me. She always let me.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I also just want to shout out everyone that always keeps everything working. They're the unsung heroes of every convention. I don't know your name, but I can. Even everything running on time.
We got time for just a couple more questions. Come on up.
I was just wondering, about 60 years ago when you were filming this show, how do you think you envisioned that you would view it 60 years later, your roles, and how do you think you would have reacted if someone told you that 60 years later you'd be still making appearances together in the United States and talking about it?
We'd have gone, yeah, get out of here. Don't be daft. Of course we won't. Wouldn't we?
Would have kept all the costumes. Every costume, sure. For every shirts and kilts and. Yeah, we would have kept everything. They're never dreaming at all, you know. Thank you.
If my 15-year-old self knew that I'd be speaking to these two wonderful people today, I never would have believed it. But this is just an honor. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a great honor for me. So one round of applause for Frazer Hines and Wendy Padbury.
we are going on a journey, a very long journey, through the world of the Target novelizations in publication order. Every week, we are looking at a new book, talking about Terrence Dicks, Malcolm Hulke, and all our Doctor Who novelization friends. Whatever you do, keep turning the pages. This is Jason Miller of the Doctor Who Literature Podcast, a member of the Direction Point Podcast Network, and you are listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Keep collecting.
Hello, fellow time travelers, and welcome to the Doctor Who Target Book Club podcast, the only podcast to discuss, in story order, all the Doctor Who novelizations. My name is Tony Whitt, and every 2 weeks or so, I'm joined by a 2 to 3 person discussion panel, including our so-called expert who's been a Who fan since 1979. That would be me. We also get the views of intermediate, casual, and novice fans who either have never seen the show or who have never read these books until these podcasts, including
Dalton Hughes
and
Allison Fitz-Seyfried.
You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you find good podcasts, or even ones like ours. You're listening to the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast on the Direction Point Podcast Network. Keep collecting.
All my travellings throughout the universe, I have battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here. The oldest civilization. Decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Sontarans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
And now it's time for the most outrageous offer. The most outrageous offer is an offer on a Doctor Who item or Doctor Who related item that appears to be priced a little too high or ridiculously high from where it is actually sitting. So today we have an item that came to my attention, and it is a Spanish Doctor Who novel, and I mean from Spain. And the prices range pretty far. So, of course, this book was found on Abe Books, which usually is pretty good for Doctor Who. They're a little overpriced sometimes, but that's just how, the market goes. Anyway, the title in question here is Doctor Who Maquinas de Guerra, and I apologize if I totally didn't get that right. But my Google Translator says that means war machines, and it's got a Dalek on the cover, so that's probably what it's all about. It's by George Mann, so there you go. It's obviously a Spanish translation of a existing book. I didn't look up the existing book because that's not the outrageous offer. Anyway, it is by Dolmen Editorial in 2022 in the Spanish language, the price here, of course, it's published by Plan B Publicaciones out of, let's see, that's what this one guy says. Actually, it's by a different publisher entirely. But the seller is One Pay Books in Miami, Florida. So this is a Spanish book out of Florida. So the seller only has a 4-star rating, so problem there. But he's got the book sold for $45,744, and it's even this time. So with $13 shipping, with 6 of those available. So wow, I wish I could sell 6 of those. That'd be quite a profit. That's a bit crazy because I looked around and I was able to find the book for as low as $18.50. Next up from there around $40. So anywhere between $20 and $40 this book can be had. I do not have this book in the collection, but I might soon because I found a good price for it. And in any case, that's just crazy. I wonder if that's a mistake, because I also see that they have the same book from the same publisher for about $50. And they're all paperbacks. There's no hardcovers here, so it's not a difference there. It's not rare. It's not something that only 5 were printed. I expect prices that high for something that's one of a kind. Now, I mentioned earlier on the show the Dalek bowling game that was noticed on eBay, and it went just above $2,000, I believe, at close. And it's in the package. It's from 1965, and I think I've never seen one. I've talked to folks that said they've seen them only in pictures, and they're just rare to have. So somebody, a serious collector with a capital C, bought that for their collection. And maybe it's a museum. It'd be nice to see it somewhere, but we'll see. But anyway, that's our most outrageous offer for today. If you have a most outrageous offer that you find out there, please send us an email at DoctorWhoCollectorsPodcast@gmail.com. Send a link and a photo if you don't mind, because sometimes links go bad very quickly. But I always take screenshots so you can see what it looks like. And I don't manipulate the screenshots. They're absolutely what's on the web, because sometimes after my show, those links disappear. So, so there you go. And that wraps up the most outrageous offer. And with that, wrapping up this edition of the Doctor Who Collectors Podcast. Thank you for listening. I definitely want to thank my guests at Chicago Tardis, Mr. Frazer Hines and Miss Wendy Padbury. It was a pleasure talking to them. Wonderful people, and had a great deal to say. So it was a lot of fun to talk to them. Also thank everybody that has been making it rain here, as far as all the patrons, all the folks who are putting me in their documentaries and their interviews. It's wonderful. I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm very humbled. The next episode will be our annual Christmas episode, the only episode sponsored by Target, and I mean it's very minimal, but it's enough to get their items up on our podcast. So there you go. So until then, keep collecting.
A Doctor Who Podcast Network.